Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Quickly sorting out everything, Jonathan had everyone sit around the table in the living room. Jasmine crossed her legs while occasionally glancing at Ryota, who hugged a body pillow and kept looking at Shiro and Lysandra with curiosity. As for the two of them, Shiro sat behind Lysandra while making sure that as little of her figure could be seen. How cute, Lysandra and Ryota thought in their minds. So anyways, Miss Nitri here is going to be commissioning us to take her to Kyoto, Japan. The reward is 10 silver errands and a level 100 piece of armor, Jonathan said as both Ryota and Jasmine widened their eyes. PFT. Wait, what? Miss, are you really giving us 10 silver errands? You know how much that is? Jasmine asked in shock. Oh, MN. I can only give it once, so it'll be split between the three of you. As for the level 100 equipment, I can give each of you one piece. Shiro nodded and replied quietly. Being near a masochist like Ryota made her extremely uncomfortable. Flexing her fingers, she took out 10 silver errands and showed it in her palm. All right, the reward is confirmed. Shall we leave now then? We'll have to go for quite a trip in order to reach one of the teleport shrines that we can use to get to Japan. Jonathan nodded. What about supplies and camping stuff? Don't we need to get that too? Jasmine asked. Miss Nitri, seems like we'll have to go for a supply run. Would that be okay with you? Jonathan asked. Yeah, that's fine. Shiro nodded while coming out from behind Lysandra. Going down the elevator once more, Shiro made sure to be as far away from Ryota as possible. Say, can I call you Nitri-chan? New York-chan? Ryota asked with a smile while Shiro kept backing off. Tugging on Lysandra's sleeves, Shiro gestured for her to be her shield. Mom, I've already dealt with that Isaac guy last time, remember? How both you and Sis jumped into the rift and left me to deal with him alone. Lysandra smiled and reminded Shiro of a certain masochist back in Kairosa. Asterisk cough? Asterisk. Shiro paused since that was indeed the truth. Wait, did Lisa just call New York-chan, Mom? Ryota paused. All right, I forgot to tell you. They're mother and daughter. Jonathan nodded. Young MILF? No, that's not right. Lullababa? Nah, she ain't a lowly. What a paradox. Ryota mused. Jonathan, me, and Lisa will see you at the door. Shiro called out as he didn't want to hear how Ryoma would class her and instantly pulled Lysandra away into the rift. Great, you scared her away. Jasmine rolled her eyes at Ryota. ####. Going around the city to buy some supplies. The party then rented a mount so that their travels would be sped up. Our destination is a city called Ermis. It's a city of dwarves. It is also a great place to look for some equipment and materials. Jonathan smiled as Shiro nodded. Getting on the back of the mount, Jonathan, Jasmine, and Ryota sat at the front while she and Lysandra sat at the back. Crossing her legs, Shiro closed her eyes. Lisa, keep a watch for me. I'm going to try turning some of my attunements to tier 4. Got it, Mom. Good luck. Lysandra replied with a smile. Entering her mana realm, Shiro saw that Azul had decided to stay on the Wood Element Island. I suppose that's to be expected. She mused to herself and floated over to the Ice Island. Hey Shiro, seems like you're going to upgrade your attunements now. Azul smiled and gave her a small wave. MN, since I'm not really doing anything while on the mount, it's better that I use it for this than to interact with that masochist. Shiro replied. I see. My queen, you're really bad with masochists, aren't you? They're like the bane of your existence. Nimue giggled as she appeared behind Shiro. Yeah, I know. You would think with my personality that a masochist would be a perfect match, but nope, they just freak me the F***ck out. Shiro shrugged. B. Truly a paradox. If you get a masochist as a partner, you'll get freaked out by their tendencies. If you get a normal person, they'll get freaked out by your tendencies. Nimue shook her head. The future looks bleak, oh virgin queen. She teased. TCH, so what? As if they deserve this queen's first time. Shiro scoffed before floating away while trying to hide her blush. Looking at Shiro with a smile, both Nimue and Azul glanced at each other and shook their heads. It seems like this queen of theirs will remain a maiden for a long time. Anyways, let's see. If I remember correctly, to upgrade my element to tier 4, I'll need to tap into its potential and get it to evolve so that it's more powerful. Since Astral Ice has already been evolved quite a bit, it seems like this won't be easy. Shiro muttered while landing on the ice island. Crouching down, she pressed her fingers on the ground and had her mana envelop the entire island. Nimue and Izul watched at the side since they knew that this would be a delicate moment where each step had to be taken with caution. Shiro then focused her mind and continued to insert large quantities of mana into the island. Soon, icy mist started to flood out as the mana spring started to freeze around the island. Expanding in size, the island started change with mountains and glaciers being formed around the area. Full, breathing out a mouthful of cold air, Shiro opened her eyes and looked up into the sky. A fissure started to form as a galaxy could be seen. Filled with an array of stars, soft starlight was reflected off of the ice, sending a myriad of lights dancing through the island. Feeling a small barrier of sorts, Shiro frowned as she narrowed her eyes. Condensing a handful of mana into her palms, she slammed it against the ground. Huh, she shouted out as a pulse of energy spread throughout the entire island. Upgrade complete. Tier 3 Astral Ice, Tier 4 Cosmic Ice. This 38% repair on my body makes the process quite easy, huh? Shiro smiled as she had prepared herself for a fight and a half. Looking back, she saw Nimue's shocked gaze along with Azul's confused one. What's wrong? Shiro tilted her head. What's wrong? It's simply illogical is what's wrong. How the hell did you do it so fast? Where's the challenge? Where's the mini-boss? Nimue retorted while quickly flying around the island to check for abnormalities. After a while of flying, she struggled to find a fault and had to admit that it had a very stable foundation, meaning that everything was done perfectly. What did you do exactly? She asked with a sigh. Well, I did what I needed to do. I just flooded the island with my own mana and spurred on my attunement's potential. Shiro replied with a small frown. She didn't know why Nimue was so shocked. Oh my god. If that's the case, I think you killed the boss before it could even fully form with that mana of yours. You overloaded it past its capacity. Nimue replied with a twitch in her smile. She couldn't believe that Shiro had just brute forced her way through an attunement. Handy. In that case, then it might be easier to do the rest of my attunements than what I had expected. Shiro smiled and looked towards the other islands. Cracking her knuckles, she floated over to them as she was determined to get each of them to Tier 4 by the end of this trip to Ermis. After around 2 hours, all of her attunements reached Tier 4 and had been upgraded to the next stage of their element. Astral Ice Dash, Cosmic Ice, Tier 4. Lightning Dash, Apocalyptic Lightning, Tier 4. Metal Dash, Stygian Steel, Tier 4. Shadow Dash, Rift Shadow, Tier 4, augmented with Calamity's Will. Dark Star Dash, Void Star, Tier 4. Light Dash, Star, Tier 4. Fire Dash, Underworld Fire, Tier 4. Wind Dash, Boreal Wind, Tier 4. Earth Dash, Tectonic Quake, Tier 4. Water Dash, Oceanic Abyss, Tier 4. Wood Dash, Forest, Tier 4. With all her elements at Tier 4, that's another one of her class up requirements completed. Full. Opening her eyes, Shiro saw that they were still flying. She wasn't exactly surprised since she only took around 2 hours to upgrade everything. Standing up, she gave her body a light stretch. You done, Mum? That was quick. Lysandra raised an eyebrow. Yeah. Surprisingly, after I recovered a little from my injuries, upgrades are a lot easier than I had anticipated. Shiro smiled. So how many attunements have reached Tier 4? All of them. Shiro grinned. Wait, what? Yup, you heard me right. I managed to get all of them to Tier 4. Shiro replied. Wait, so? All the elements that you have? Lysandra asked while making a gesture for the number 11. Yup. Well, damn. Was all Lysandra could say since she knew that it would normally take people a long time to upgrade their attunements. For Shiro to be able to complete everything within such a short span of time, she couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if Shiro was to be at peak condition. Shaking her head, Lysandra only smiled wearily. Since you've finished everything, Mom, what else do you need to do? She asked since she knew that Shiro didn't exactly want to talk to Ryota. I suppose I'll keep charging up this Lotus. I've already charged it to 15.3 billion MP in my spare time, but it's still not done. Shiro shook her head while pulling out the Tri-Element Crystal Lotus. At first, she had expected it to be charged at 15 billion. But when it went past that number, she knew that it wasn't going to be so easy. Do you want me to help with that? Lysandra offered. That would be helpful. Shiro nodded. The sooner they finished charging up this item, the quicker she could get her attunements upgraded again. As the journey continued, Shiro and Lysandra spent this time charging up the lotus with their mana. ####. Alright, we'll stop here for the night. It'll take us another 2 days to get to Ermis if we continue at our pace. Jonathan called out as he patted the mount's head, asking it to land for now. Looking down, Shiro saw that they were about to stop at a clearing in the forest. Since this is out in the wild, there is a good chance that a monster may attack them depending on what happens, so she'll need to be vigilant. Flexing her fingers, she released a few nanobots into the forest beneath them and had the bots set up small wire traps that would warn her of any approaching monsters. Normally, setting things up this far away from her would take quite a bit of mana, but now that she was repaired by 38% and had access to more of her mana, this was an easy task. By the time they had landed, Shiro had already set up traps in every direction to secure their safety. Right then, we'll set up a rotation for night watch now. I'll go first, then Ryota, Jasmine, and then you 2 girls after. Is that okay? Jonathan asked. He wanted the girls to go later since they were the employers. It would do no good for the employers to do the night watch first. I'm fine with that. Shiro nodded since it wasn't as if she'll go into a deep sleep. As soon as she realizes that something is wrong, she'll wake up. Okay, now that shifts are sorted, I'll decide on the time. Since we only realistically need 6 to 7 hours of sleep, we'll go for 1.5-hour rotations each and wake up the next person. With the night watch rotations sorted out, Jonathan then distributed tasks for everyone to do. Ryota set up the tents while Jasmine was responsible for preparing some food. As for Jonathan, he would be looking after the mount. Soon, the food was done as Shiro was pleasantly surprised at how much Jasmine had cooked and how delicious they looked. Sitting around the table that Jonathan had pulled out, Shiro was about to eat when she saw Ryota staring at her with bloodshot eyes. Flinching a little, she pulled Lysandra in front of her to block out the stares. Oi, Ryota, what are you even doing? Jonathan sighed. It's dinner. The masked waifu is about to eat. There is only one choice, and that is to remove her mask or reveal only a small portion of her lower face to eat. Regardless of what happens, the benefits I gain are beyond the risks, so I am going to risk it. Ryota replied while continuously staring at the duo. Mom, why don't you reveal your face and get it over and done with? Lysandra chuckled. Oh, did you forget why I got us these masks to begin with? Shiro knocked Lysandra's head a little. However, she was considering the choice of changing their faces so that they weren't noticed. Lysandra could be changed so that her face would resemble more of what she looked like as Nitri. Flexing her fingers a little, Shiro activated Fey illusions and changed their faces. Come on, Mum. You know it's going to be annoying to eat with the mask on. Lysandra persuaded, even though she knew that Shiro had already activated her Fey illusions. Fine. Shiro nodded. Reaching out for her mask, she unclipped it and set it down on the able. Doing the same with her mask, Lysandra smiled softly and started to eat. Asterisk whistle. A perfect girl next door face. Yeah, that's definitely a great waifu. Ryota nodded with appreciation. Burning the image into his mind, he started to eat while staring at her. Blushing a little from the masochist's stare, Shiro hid behind Lysandra and ate her meal quietly. As the strange meal session finished, Shiro and Lysandra got into their own tents and slept first. The night passed rather uneventfully. None of her traps were activated, nor did the party members see any monsters approach them. This continued for the next 2 days as they arrived in Ermis safely. I'll go return the mount to the Adventurers Guild. Since you two have my contact, you can give me a message when you're done sightseeing, and we'll take the teleport shrine to Kyoto. Jonathan smiled. All right, I'll probably just look around for some items and maybe a way to upgrade my sword. Shiro shrugged. Since her sword, Ataraxia, has quite a low durability rating to compensate for the fact that it could never truly be destroyed, it was quite delicate in battles as the enemy could just shatter it with a decent punch to the side. If this continues to happen, her sword may as well just be a mana pack at this point. Lisa, what are you planning to do? Shiro asked as she turned to Lysandra. Me? Well, I think I'll just follow you. There's not much that needs my attention after all. Lysandra replied. All right. In that case then, after I finish my own shopping, We'll do some clothes shopping so that we can do some mother and daughter bonding. Shiro chuckled since she hadn't really taken Lysandra out for fun. Ah, you don't have to do that, Mom. It's fine. Lysandra replied quickly since she didn't want to trouble Shiro. You're gonna hurt my heart, you know. My daughter doesn't even want to shop with me. Shiro acted as if she was in distress. Lysandra rolled her eyes, but was actually happy on the inside. Messing around for a bit more, Shiro looked on the map and tried to see where the closest blacksmithing area was. I can't seem to find where the blacksmithing area is. Shiro frowned. While she said this, a nearby dwarf heard what she said and couldn't help but laugh. Missy, you're new to this place, aren't you? He asked with a smile. I am indeed, sir. I was just wondering if I could upgrade my sword here and couldn't see where the blacksmiths are in this city. Shiro nodded. Haha, we're dwarfs, natural blacksmiths. Every street here is the blacksmith street, so there's no need to put it on the map. The dwarf replied with a smile. Oh, interesting. Then do you know the best and most trustworthy smith around here? TCH, what's with that sentence? Every dwarf here is trustworthy as long as it is to do with our trade. The dwarf scoffed in disdain. So you're telling me that even when drunk, you won't reveal a single piece of information in regards to the equipment that you have repaired? Yes. And if it's of the red grade? Ye dash. Yes. You hesitated. Shiro retorted. But it's a red grade. Who the F***ck would stay quiet about a red grade? The dwarf retorted back. So do you have anyone who would actually stay quiet about a red grade item? Wait, you have a red grade item? No. Shiro replied instantly. Narrowing his eyes, the dwarf thought for a moment before nodding. I do have 3 dwarfs in mind. Oh, 3, huh? Which 3 and how can I find them? Shiro asked. However, the dwarf didn't reply. He only extended out his hand and opened his palm. MN. Shiro tilted her head. Damn it, money okay? Information requires money or materials. Whichever is easier for you. The dwarf frowned. Oh, in that case, then how much are you looking for? Wait, you're actually giving me some money instead of materials. The dwarf raised an eyebrow. Well, why wouldn't I? Shiro tilted her head. After her adventurer in Muriel, she had more than enough money for now, hence why she used such a high reward for the commission that Jonathan had accepted. Mom, I think he's thinking that materials are easier to obtain. Lysandra chuckled. Yup, this girl's got the idea. Why are you so dumb? The dwarf shrugged as he glanced at her in disdain. Poochie. Nimue. Izul. You better give me a good reason not to kill this dwarf. Well, don't look at me. Personally, I would very much enjoy seeing you do that. Nimue grinned since she knew that Shiro was just joking around. Maybe because you need him to find the 3 dwarfs? Izul replied since she thought Shiro was being serious. See, why can't you be cooperative like Izul? Shiro sighed. Don't get used to it. I can promise that once Izul stays with you for as long as I have, she'll be like me and block your shenanigans for our own enjoyment. Nimue replied with a shrug. Shaking her head, Shiro turned back to the dwarf. In that case, then what kind of material do you want? She asked. Girl, you do know that there are thousands of materials, right? How the hell do you expect me to know what you have and which one I want without you showing me? Rolling her eyes, Shiro set out all the B-ranked materials that she had collected from the second prince's corpse. Ho ho. You know, despite you being so dumb, you have quite the bounty on you, don't ya? The dwarf chuckled while looking through the pile of materials. Choosing 3 materials, he stored them in his inventory and smiled with satisfaction. Right then, the 3 dwarfs you're looking for are the highest-ranking dwarfs in this city. One is the city lord, and the other 2 are his close aides. The dwarf grinned and quickly ran away. Wait F***ck, I've been scammed. Shiro widened her eyes and wanted to chase after him. However, his figure had long disappeared in the crowd as Shiro could only shake her head and sigh. Well, I suppose we did get the information that we wanted. So, I need to look for the city lord and his close aides. Shiro shrugged. Raising her eyebrow, Lysandra only laughed since she knew that Shiro had let the dwarf run away. If she really wanted to chase after him, it was not but a simple task for her. Oh, Mum, I swear you resemble Tsundere to some degree. You don't speak your mind, do you? Lysandra chuckled. Come on, surely not, right? I'm honest, aren't I? Most of the time anyways. Shiro replied. Sure, whatever you say, Mom. Shaking her head, Shiro then asked around to see where she could find the city lord. Getting some directions from another dwarf, without a price this time, she made her way to the city center. On the way there, Shiro decided to use this time to look for some clothes with Lysandra, since it wasn't as if they were too tight on time. Even if they were, since she's the commissioner, she could just tell the party to wait for her to sort everything out. She is paying them 10 silvers after all. Let's see. What would look cute on you, Lisa? Shiro chuckled while walking into a clothes shop. I don't really want anything cute. If it looks okay, it looks okay. Plus, I'm in my armor most of the time, so it doesn't matter. Lysandra shrugged since she wasn't too bothered. If anything, spending time with Shiro is what she enjoyed the most out of this. No. Trust me, look good and feel good. Understand. Shiro shook her finger and smiled. Sure, if that's what you want, Mom. Lysandra smiled wearily. Amen, that's better. Now give me a second, I'll go ask the assistant. Jogging away, Shiro called for one of the shop assistants. Excuse me, I was just wondering if you have any recommendations for my daughter. You see, she doesn't shop for clothes often, so we just want to see what kind of outfit suits her style. Shiro said as she showed the assistant Lysandra's face without her mask. Talking for a little longer, the assistant soon showed her a few outfits that may look good on Lysandra. The first of which is a sleeveless shirt paired with a black jacket and some jeans. The second is a slightly large hoodie, a medium to short skit, and a pair of boots. As for the last set of clothes, it was a simple knitted crop top and a long skirt that was split at the sides much like a cheapao. Which one do you like better, Lisa? Shiro asked with a smile. I suppose I like the first one, Lysandra replied. The second outfit seemed good, but too casual. As for the third, it revealed a bit too much skin for her liking. In that case, then can I buy 3 copies of the first outfit? Shiro smiled towards the assistant. Going up to the desk, she paid the full amount, which totaled up to 3 bronze errands. Damn, to think one outfit would cost $1 billion US. The dungeons have really F***ed with the economy, eh? Shiro raised an eyebrow. Thankfully, things scaled up as the levels around the city increased. If the same outfit was to be available in lower-level cities, it would only cost a few USD. However, since 90% of the people that are in this city could actually make a decent amount of money from the dungeons, 1 bronze errand would be within their reach. Gesturing for Lysandra to change into her new outfit, Shiro waited by the changing rooms. Done, you happy now, Mom? Lysandra smiled softly while walking out with her new outfit. With her hands in her jean pockets, Lysandra had a rather cool aura around her which caused Shiro to clap her hands in admiration. Very nice. Maybe I should get something else to wear as well. To be honest, I don't exactly know why I even bothered to get these masks, After all, I can just use my Fey illusions to change our looks. Shiro replied while whispering the last part of her sentence. Maybe it's just habit? You do use masks often after all. Lysandra shrugged. From what she knew, Shiro had an assortment of masks and lower face masks that she liked to use when she got the chance. Maybe. Shiro chuckled. Looking around, she wondered if it was worth it to get something for herself. There's no point. Can't you just make it with your nanobots without buying anything? Nimue raised her eyebrows. True, but where's the fun in that? Shiro shrugged. Is it not more reliable? Plus, don't you already have your monster cloth outfit that Aram made for you? You don't really need to buy clothes, do you? URG, you're no fun. Shiro sighed and gave up on buying herself some outfits. You're not getting anything, Mom? Lysandra asked curiously. Nah, I can just make it myself, I guess. Leaving the shop, they made their way towards the city center once more. Asking directions on the way there, Shiro soon found herself in front of the city hall. From the outside, she could see that the architecture of this hall was much different to what she was used to in the other cities. Compared to their modern design, this has aspects of steampunk and ancient engravings on the walls. The entire building was colored with a mix of bronze, brown, and white. So, this is where the city lord is. Shiro mused to herself before entering the building. Inside, she could see that parts of the hall were made with a dark gold material along with some silver scattered around the place. Looking for what seems to be a receptionist, she walked up and inquired about maybe meeting the city lord to discuss business. The city lord is quite busy, so, unless it is a commission that interests him or if you have a large amount of silver, I don't think he'll take your request. The receptionist shook her head. Pausing for a moment, Shiro didn't exactly want to tell the receptionist the information regarding her sword. Are you able to send a message to his close aides then? She asked again. The city lord has many close aides, so unless you know who that is, I can't help you with that request. And even if I did, I can't guarantee that you'll be able to receive a reply since they too are quite busy. The receptionist apologized as Shiro frowned. Wait a minute, can't I just hack the system and send him an urgent message? Realizing this fact, she then pressed her fingers against the tablet and intruded their systems. As she was asking the receptionist about ways she could potentially send a message to the city lord without anyone knowing the details, she soon found a link to the city lord's computer. Since there's no other way, I suppose I'll give up then. Thank you for your time. Shiro shook her head. Bidding farewell with the receptionist, she gestured for Lysandra to follow her. I'm guessing you found a way to contact the city lord? Lysandra raised her eyebrows. Yup. Shiro grinned. Sitting down at one of the cafes, she ordered a few snacks and pulled out a tablet. Of course, the tablet was something she made discreetly with her nanobots, but she made sure it looked like she pulled it out from her inventory. Let's see, how should I do this? Shiro muttered while connecting herself to the city lord's computer. She could see that he was currently working on some documents that have to do with relocating some of the experienced blacksmiths around the city so that it can give the new blacksmiths a chance at commissions. Thinking about it for a moment, she eventually settled with just sending him a notification of a commission for now. Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. The older blacksmiths are taking most of the commissions nowadays. I've seen more and more apprentices leaving the city. This won't do. We need them to have a chance as well since this is supposed to be a blacksmithing city. Both the experienced and inexperienced should have a chance. The city lord muttered with a frown. As he was testing out some new allocations, he saw an email pop up in his inbox with the subject of commission. Raising an eyebrow, he decided to open it since he made sure that the receptionists know not to send him an email about commissions unless it's something that's worth it. Reading the email, he immediately narrowed his eyes as it turns out that this email was not from the receptionist, but rather a mysterious person who was asking for a commission to upgrade a powerful sword from him. Strange. There's no identification nor the details of the swords. He muttered in suspicion. That's because this is quite a private matter, city lord. I heard that you and 2 close aides will keep the details of an upgrade silent. Since my sword is rather special, I don't want anyone else to know of its details except for the people who are upgrading it. If you cannot keep a secret, then I shall bother you no more. Widening his eyes, he looked around with a serious expression. No need to look around, city lord, as I am no longer in the hall. But tell me, are you able to keep a secret should the commission be interesting enough? I am rather displeased about you hacking into my systems, but if the commission is interesting, I will do it. The city lord replied. While he was the city lord, he is also a blacksmith looking for ways to improve himself. The only reason he limited the commissions to something powerful and interesting was because weaker weapons don't give him any more proficiencies nor EXP. So unless it was something that interested him greatly, he would not bother. Great. In that case, then what do you think of this sword? It's rather brittle at the moment due to its self-repair passive, but other than that, it's a good sword. Sending over a picture, Shiro waited for the man's reply. I can see why you wouldn't want anyone else to see this now. A sword that is fitted with heavenly runes, can self-repair, and even make copies of itself. I don't even think the downside of the runes matter anymore due to this self-repair. But you're right. In terms of durability, it is rather weak. I'm guessing you had it broken in battle a few times. The city lord replied with interest since it was the first time he saw a sword like this. If it was him, he wouldn't want other people to know as well, so he could somewhat forgive the fact that this mysterious person had hacked into his systems to send him this commission. Indeed. So are you able to upgrade it? Without telling anyone else, of course. Depends on what kind of materials that you have and how much you can afford. After all, even though it interests me, I still need to do business, haha. But I'll give you a discount, don't worry. The city lord grinned while Shiro clicked her tongue. TCH, what is it with dwarfs and their business? Aren't they supposed to be crazy for the equipment? Shiro furrowed her brows. In that case, then we can meet up somewhere. I'll show you the materials I have, and if it doesn't fit your requirements, I'll just trade them in for the needed parts. Sure, where are we going then? I was thinking, your office, since it wouldn't be good if the city lord was to just leave the building and talk to a stranger now, would it? At least I can still say that I'm a middleman from a faction. Very well. I'll notify the receptionist then. No need. I'm coming now. They won't even know I'm there. Seeing her last message, the city lord frowned in confusion. What does this person mean? He muttered. However, his question was soon answered as the rift opened up in his ceiling. Seeing two figures drop down, he adjusted himself. I suppose you're the person who messaged me about the commission? He asked with a smile. Yup. Since we're going to be doing business, I suppose having a mask would make it awkward now, wouldn't it? Shiro smiled and removed her mask. Of course, she had her Nitri disguise on so that he wouldn't know who she was. Looking at the city lord in front of her, she realized that he too had a disguise since she couldn't see his level nor class, only name. Thargrim LVL? To think a young girl could just hack into the systems and send me messages. I suppose I'll have to increase the cyber safety, yeah? Thargrim laughed softly. He was a rather tall and muscular dwarf who looked to be around 1.6 meters tall. His beard and hair were well kept as he poised himself in a refined way. Well, just think of it as a special occasion. Anyways, here is the sword and the materials. I also have a second set of heavenly runes if you're able to upgrade the current existing set. Shiro said while handing him the items. Oh, color me impressed. To have 2 sets of heavenly runes. Sure, I can do that. So how do you want it to be upgraded? Anything specific in mind? He asked. Just increase its durability and sharpness. Those 2 are the main things. As for any additional bonuses, it's entirely up to you. Interesting. Okay, just give me a second then. With that, he pulled out a pair of glasses and immediately started to bring up some documents on his computer. Comparing some files and the swords back to back, he worked away at an upgrade blueprint. While this was happening, Shiro decided to look around the room to see if there was anything of interest for her. From what she could see, most of the items in the room were very utility-based, as there were very little decorative items. Filled with books, pieces of weapons and armor, the office was quite serious. Seems like he's a master of his craft. I suppose that might be one of the requirements to become the city lord of a blacksmithing city. He knows what the blacksmiths want. Shiro mused to herself. After a few moments, the city lord stopped what he was doing and looked back at the 2 who were examining his office. So I've managed to get a prototype up for now. From what you've given me and what we have in stock, I am able to fulfill your base requirements and some more depending on what you want. Oh, may I see the options? Shiro replied with interest. Of course. You see, there are 3 stable choices for now as the others have a lower chance of success. The first is the bonus ability of Switch. With this, you may trade places with your sword as long as it's within 200 meters of you. This ability will have 5 charges, and each charge will be regenerated after 1 hour. The second is just a general enhancement of the elemental properties. As for the third, and in my opinion is one of the more interesting ones, you can choose to merge one of your swords with the enemy and make them vulnerable to the element. Of course, this isn't permanent, but the effects should last for a decent amount of time, and your sword will naturally repair itself and come back to you. So which one will you choose? Narrowing her eyes, Shiro thought about the benefits of each choice. If I chose number 1, it's an additional lifeline for me. Currently, there are B-ranked people who could tear through my rift and get me due to a targeted skill. So if I'm able to use this to blink away, it would be very handy. But at the same time, once I class up, my rift would also gain a small buff. In addition to this, there is also a limit to the range. Therefore, number 1 is something good to have, but not exactly necessary. For choice number 2, since I use elements a lot and my class focuses around the use of elements, it may be quite nice to have as well since the buffs will stack up and the outcome would be pretty powerful. But much like the first one, this one is something that's good to have, but not exactly necessary. Since that's the case, I suppose 3 is the better choice. If I embed my sword and use the metal element, I can make it so that my enemy is weak to my Snowmancer class. However, this is pretty redundant if I had to face up against multiple enemies. My sword can only be embedded into one enemy unless I use my other copies, but even then, I can only affect 11 people at once. Shiro mused to herself with a frown. Am I able to have all 3, or is that not possible? Shiro asked with a frown. Nah, don't get too greedy, Missy. The more enchantments you want, the harder it is and the bigger chance of failure. The range of failure could be anywhere from negligible and just wasting materials to completely destroying your sword. It's your choice, but I suggest just picking one since a red grade sword is not something you come across often. Thargrim scoffed. He had come across lots of people who were greedy for more enchantments, but they needed to realize that there is only so much the blacksmith can do. If the weapon can't handle it, it can't handle it. Don't force it, or else you're tempting the idea of completely losing your weapon. In that case, then I suppose I'll choose number 2. Having a buff to my element is pretty handy in general. Shiro replied with a sigh. Oh, I would have thought that you would choose number 3 or 1 since they're what I would choose. First choice is a lifeline while the third choice is something that can help the party. Thargrim raised his eyebrow. MN. If I didn't have my current skill set, I would have probably chosen the first one. But I can already move through space, so that would be a waste. As for the third choice, it's good, but we mostly get into team fights, so it's not advised. Therefore, I'll just go with the passive upgrade to my elements. Shiro shrugged. Smart choice. In that case, then follow me to the forge. I might as well make it now. Following behind Thargrim, he opened up a secret passageway, and a burst of heat instantly swept over them. Raising an eyebrow, Shiro was rather surprised about this since the materials that made up the walls of his office were actually able to withstand this level of heat. Seems like you're richer than I had thought. The walls are pretty resilient, Shiro smiled. MN, they're crafted from a special type stone that can be found in the volcanic seas. I had this office refurbished with this so that my forge can fit in here. That way, I can work whenever I want to. Thargrim replied with a chuckle. Arriving at the bottommost layer, Shiro finally found the source of heat for this place. Girls, what kind of fire is that? It reminds me of a spirit, and yet it's not at the same time. Shiro questioned since the 2 spirits residing in her mana realm could probably determine what this is. I don't have knowledge of anything like this in my memories. The closest thing I can think of is that it's something similar to your life fire. As for the spirit part, I can't say for sure, but it resembles the state I was in before you helped me gain sentience and awaken the memories inside me. Nimue replied while observing the fire. From her perspective, she could tell that fire is definitely alive, but it's almost as if it was in the incubation period and not yet fully formed. If that's the case, you don't think I can take a bit of it and nurture it so that it gains sentience? After all, there's a good chance that it would eventually evolve into a fire-type spirit. Shiro suggested. Yes. So you want to rob this dwarf? If you took a part of it, it has to be the core or else the actual spirit wouldn't form. So regardless, you'll be basically taking the whole thing. I suppose so. Troublesome. Shiro frowned in her mind, but made sure that this wasn't visible from the outside. That's quite an interesting fire, isn't it? It feels somewhat alive. Shiro asked while pointing at the flames. Indeed. It took me a while to get this ancient spirit fire. It was actually on auction near the front lines. Ever since I heard of its existence, I kept track of it and only recently acquired it for a hefty price. But so far, everything I've forged with it has been top-notch. Thargrim smiled. Oh, is that so? Shiro nodded. Looking for a seat by the side, she sat down with Lysandra and crossed her legs. Watching the dwarf pull out his tools and materials by the side, Shiro watched intently in case he tried to pull anything sneaking. After all, he was now holding the original form of her sword and with it, the necklace that usually stores it away for easy handling. Sure, he may not be able to use it, but he could still turn it into anything else. Maybe I'm just a bit paranoid. Shiro mused and shook her head. Regardless, she still watched carefully. As Thargrim was working away at the sword, Shiro couldn't help but compare it against Helian's techniques and realized that it didn't feel as lively. When she watched Helion work, it was always a show of flair, brilliance, and concentration. Every step would be done with careful detail, and he would pour his everything into making the best item he could regardless of how low the possibilities are. As for Thargrim, it was cold, cruel, and efficient. Much like an assassin cutting down their target, Thargrim's techniques were highly efficient and had very little to no emotion behind it. Sure, the results were good, but the process up to the result was dead in her eyes. I miss watching Helion work. It was always a pleasure seeing him do his thing with such concentration. Shiro thought to herself. Little did she know, she had already lost interest in whatever Thargrim was doing and could only think back to whenever Helion forged. My queen, maybe you should kidnap him away next time. Nimue suggested. No, that would be rude. For someone like him, he needs to be unrestrained and allowed to explore so that he can discover his full potential. For a low-level blacksmith to have gotten the approval of a god, he has his own trials that he needs to overcome without my presence. Doing so would just be harming his future. Shiro shook her head. Oh, that's quite different to how you treat the other party members now. To them, you're like a mother bird looking after the chicks. But for him, you're more harsh and try to offer no support if you can. Maybe I just have some expectations set for him. Seeing his potential and the fact that he can get the recognition of a god, I want him to see him reach the top of the world. Shiro replied with a shrug. Shaking her head, she focused her attention back on the situation at hand since it seemed like Thargrim was getting into his zone. His work speed increased as his movements soon became a flurry of strikes against the blade of the sword. With every hit, the flares would flicker and wrap around the sword. After a few hours, the sword was finally finished as Thargrim slammed his hammer down for the last time. Asterisk, boom. A golden radiance exploded out from that last hammer hit. Sparkles of light trailed behind the radiance as if they were stars in the galaxy. Looking at the sword, Thargrim's hand couldn't help but shake a little from excitement since the sword had actually synergized a little with his ancient spirit fire and received an additional enchantment. Ataraxia, Celestial Sword of Spirits, Red Plus. Ataraxia, Celestial Sword of Spirits, Red Plus. Matches owner level, current level, 100. Plus 15,000 attack. Plus 13,000 sharpness. Plus 6,000 attack speed. Plus 5,000 ignore defense. Plus 5,000 critical chance. Plus 4,000 critical damage. Plus 80% elemental damage. Plus 60% suppression against enemies of the same level or lower. Plus 40% self-repair. Plus 30% lifesteal. Plus 30% mana disabler. Skills: Element Shift, Ataraxia, Celestial Runes Plus, Kara Plus, Lyre Plus, Era Plus, Elemental Affinity, Passive. Bound, Shiro. Kara Plus, increase mana regen massively. The lower the current MP count, the higher the regeneration. Secondary option: sacrifice all durability to regain all MP used. Consumes weapon durability. Lyre Plus, increase health regen massively. The lower the current HP count, the higher the regeneration. Secondary option: sacrifice all durability to regenerate max HP. Consumes weapon durability. Era Plus, convert all the damage taken within the past 10 minutes into health and empower the host for 2 minutes. Secondary option: sacrifice all durability to reflect back all damage taken in the past minute by 200%. Warning: do not use constantly as backlash will build up unless given the chance to recuperate. Ataraxia. When activated, you enter a state of intense focus. Increases activators' control over their body. The surrounding area is decolorized into simple black and white with weak points highlighted in bright red. Plus 40% damage when hitting the marked spots. User gain: 50% AGI, 50% DX, 50% STR. Enemies within your area of control are affected with minus 40% speed, minus 40% DF, minus 20% reaction, and a small chance to lose focus for a short moment of time, exposing their weak points. Duration: 2 minutes. Cost: 40% of total MP. Cooldown: 1 day. Backlash: lose 70% of vision for 5 hours, 70% muscle fatigue. As Thargrim was inspecting the sword, Shiro's face immediately became cold since she could see greed in his eyes. His sight would wander a little as he contemplated the idea of stealing the sword from her. TCH, seems like I can only trust Helion with his blacksmithing. Shiro clicked her tongue. Walking up to the city lord, she reached out to his shoulder. Unexpectedly, just as she did that, a dagger appeared in her view and tried to take her eyes out. "Mom!" Lysandra shouted out and instantly donned her armor and 2 swords. "Don't worry," Shiro replied nonchalantly as she had pinched the dagger with her fingers. The sheer amount of killing intent that was being released from her as of this moment caused the entire room's temperature to drop. Even the spirit fire tried to duck away in fear. "Seems like I've been a bit too lenient lately. The first thing that happened when I entered this city is that I got scammed. The next thing that happens is that you try to steal my precious sword. She glared at Thargrim, who was suddenly filled with cold sweat. No, something's wrong. There's no way that her strength could be so high. He thought in shock. He was a level 150 blacksmith who had focused most of his points into strength. However, this girl in front of him had actually pinched his dagger with her fingers and stopped his sneak attack dead in his tracks. Seems like this queen has gone soft over the last few days. Shiro sighed and snapped the dagger with her finger. In that case, I might as well sharpen myself up once more. You're a blacksmith, aren't you? Then give this queen some support. Currently, she had her mana constantly reinforcing her entire body since she knew the blacksmith in front of her was powerful. However, with her links repaired, she was able to reinforce her body much better, increasing her strength to a new level. Currently, her strength was at 109,500 including the title bonus. But if she factored in her monster title, that strength was in reality 219,000. To make matters worse for Thargrim, her int was an astounding 422,000 if she included everything into the calculation. Base stats, title bonus, armor passive, and monster title. With her now being able to use more of her mana without fear, she could stack up quite a lot of her INT points into STR through her reinforcement, allowing her to go toe-to-toe with B-class people who aren't so monstrous in their areas. If she was to fight Kiyomi again, she could probably win with relative ease now. Bang. Crashing her fists against Thargrim's torso, his body was launched against the walls and caused cracks to spread out upon impact. Not giving him a chance to recover, she flickered in front of him and made herself a hand cannon and aimed it as his head. While she could go toe-to-toe with B-class people, it was still safer to just kill them quickly before they could use their skills and escape tools. Pulling the trigger before Thargrim could even say anything, the bullet drilled into his cranium and completely shredded his brain. Seeing his body go limp, Shiro narrowed her eyes and tried to collect his corpse. Once that was successful, that meant she killed him for good. However, when she realized that she couldn't collect this corpse, she instantly noticed the signs of a skill that was annoying to deal with. Corpse Doll, a passive skill that saves you from death once per 3 days. Upon taking what would be lethal damage, a doll would take your places and you enter true stealth so long as your killer is still nearby. Once they are a certain distance away, you exit stealth and gain a 300% boost in movement speed. Shiro thought and instantly slammed her foot down. KRRR. Ice exploded out and froze everything in the room, even the passageway that led down to the forge. However, Corpse Doll is useless as long as you have a large crowd control skill. Shiro said coldly as she looked in the corner of the room. There was a patch of ice that was in the shape of a person trying to reach for the exit. While she couldn't see him, she knew that he was there. TSK. You know, trying to trick me will only piss me off more. I was going to let you die easily, but it seems like you want a painful death instead, Shiro said while walking up to the block of ice. Forming a knife hand, she chopped off his left hand and inserted a few nanobots into his body. Snapping her fingers, they instantly entered a frenzy and started to eat away at everything inside him. Some of the nanobots were tasked with stopping him from screaming, while others were tasked with intensifying his pain. The first group made their way to the throat, while the second made its way to his spine and brain. While this was happening, she made sure that the ice was frozen on his skin securely before peeling back the ice on his face. She could immediately see blood pour out as the skin slowly revealed itself on the ice. Since it left his main body, it was no longer affected by true stealth, so she could see his panicked expression. That's a nice expression you have there. Much better than the normal one you had. She smiled while looking at the face. In the ice, she could also see 2 ripped-out eyeballs that the ice had forcefully pulled out when she peeled it back. Throwing it aside, she then ended his life by stabbing an ice spear through his head. This time, Thargrim was dead for real as his faceless corpse revealed itself. Scoffing lightly, she collected his corpse and washed away all the blood. Not sparing a moment to check the loot, she quickly raided what she could get in the forge along with anything useful in his office before walking up to the spirit fire. Any guess on how I can retrieve this? Shiro asked. Stick your hand in it and try to form a connection, Nimue suggested with a shrug. Nodding her head, Shiro coated her hands with mana and reached out for the core of the fire. Closing her eyes, She tried to sense its main source of mana. Ownerless ancient spirit fire detected. Retrieve. Yes. No. Tapping yes. The fire danced lightly before being absorbed into her mana realm, as she had no container for it as of this moment. Only the mana realm was suitable. Peering into her mana realm, she could see the spirit fire settle down on the fire island and start to cultivate itself with her mana. Seems like we'll get a fire sister soon. Izul smiled softly while looking at the little flicker of fire. Indeed. I wonder if it would be someone we know or a completely new spirit. Nimue nodded. Taking her attention out of the mana realm, she looked towards Lysandra. Let's get out of here. The longer we stay, the worse it could get. MN. Taking Lysandra by the hand, she quickly left the area with her Rift Strider skill. 4. Exiting the rift not too far away from the teleport shrine, Shiro sat down with Lysandra at a nearby cafe to inspect their newly acquired bounty along with her upgraded sword. During that time, she wasn't able to see the stats since Thargrim attacked her instantly. Looking at the new ataraxia, Shiro couldn't help but raise her eyebrows at the secondary options added onto the sword. Oh, well, aren't these quite convenient? At least he was able to do some half-decent work before he died. Shiro mused to herself. Since she had given him her second charge of the celestial runes, they were able to get an upgrade and an additional ability. For Kara, the one that gave her mana regen, once she sacrificed the sword using this second option, she can get all her mana back. This made it so that she had a bit more freedom with how she used the sword. The next rune was Lire, and that allowed her to increase her health regen. However, with the new upgrade, it acted as a secondary rejuvenation. By sacrificing the sword, she'll be able to get all her HP back in an instant. In some situations, this was better than rejuvenation since the skill was limited to a time frame. But this one was her entire HP pool regardless of the situation. Last but not least was Era. The new ability was actually able to reflect all of the damage she took in the past minute back at the Cinder at 200% power. Of course, she wasn't able to use the spare copies of Ataraxia that she could summon since the runes don't work that way. It had to be the main copy, or else it wouldn't work. This meant that she could only use one of these abilities during battle. Well, at least Ataraxia can repair itself. If it was on a one-time use item, it would be quite a waste after all. Shiro thought to herself. In addition to this, she didn't forget about the coffins that she would visit with every upgrade of this sword. However, this wasn't the time yet since she didn't know how long it would take. If anything, this was something she should do when they're in Kyoto. Shaking her head, she put the sword away and looked at the inventory of materials and loot that the city lord had in his possession. Looking through the pile, she was quite surprised to see that he carried some of the things she needed to make the Boreas rebirth, the one that repairs her entire body and even increases her affinity to ice. To make the pill, she needed Underworld Ice Rose, Sub-Zero Spirit Essence, Crystallized Divine Nuclei, Millennium Ice Dragon's Essence, Glacial Lotus Blood, Sacred Frost Jade, Tears of Winter, and Eternal Ice Heart. The city lord had carried the Sacred Frost Jade and the Underworld Ice Rose in his inventory. With this, she was one step closer to making the pill. Once she did that, she wouldn't need to get any more rebirth pills. Sorting out all the loot in her inventory, she set all the materials aside so that she could give them to Helion when they meet at a later date. Speaking of Helion, I wonder if I should meet up with him in Kyoto, Japan. Shiro mused to herself. Thinking about it for a moment, she then sent a message to him. Shiro, Helion, I've managed to get quite a few rare materials. You want to meet up somewhere, and I can give these to you. Helion, it's fine. You don't have to trouble yourself like that. Shiro, don't worry about it. This is just something I've managed to acquire after some F***CK off piece of SH**T dwarf C**T that tried to rob me of my SH**T. Helion. Oh wow, you sound like you had quite a vendetta against the dwarf. Shiro. I would, but I killed him so. Anyways, where do you want to meet up? I might as well give them to you since I don't really have any use for them. I don't forge after all. Helion, where are you now? I'll make my way to you like last time. Shiro, I'm currently on my way to Kyoto, so maybe we should meet there. Helion, okay, I'm fine with that. See you soon, Shiro. Shiro, see you. Putting her phone down, she ate her snacks and had a quick drink. Sending a message to Jonathan, they met back up at the teleport shrine. Are you done with what you need to do? Jonathan asked with a smile. He had no knowledge of what Shiro had done, but from what he could tell by her aura, she was quite happy. Amen, it was quite rewarding. Shiro nodded. I see. By the way, you're not wearing your mask. Well, I suppose I can wear it if my face is bad to look at. Shiro chuckled as Jonathan panicked a little. Oh no, I mean I thought you wore it since you didn't like people seeing your face. Don't worry about it. Our next stop is Kyoto anyways, so let's go. I don't want too much delay. Nodding his head, the party went inside the teleport shrine. Shiro wasn't too rushed about leaving this place since for all they know, the city lord could have just taken a moment to walk around for a bit. It would be a while till they find out he's dead. Thinking of the city lord, she couldn't help but wonder why he would even take her sword. Perhaps he wanted to study it? Plus, if he killed you, wouldn't the sword be free once again? Nimue raised an eyebrow. Perhaps, but he's dead now and I don't give a sh*t. To be honest, I don't exactly want to interact with dwarfs anymore since they're pieces of sh*t from what I've seen so far. Shiro shrugged. Mn, well you may have just been unlucky. Who knows? You may eventually see a good dwarf in the future. Well, I'll change my mind once that happens. Shiro smiled. Setting her focus back on the situation on hand, the party activated the teleport shrine and a light filled their vision. Shielding her eyes, she could soon hear the sound of people talking in Japanese. Opening her eyes, she was hit with a rather different architectural style than what she was used to. Seeing the wood being mixed in with some modern materials, it was actually quite pleasant in Shiro's opinion. There was also the feeling of nostalgia which confused her, but she soon understood that it was probably due to Kuromi's influence that she actually felt like this. Anyways, now that we're in Kyoto, we can go do our things now. Thank you for your help. Shiro smiled as the party nodded. Ryota wanted to party up with Shiro for a little longer, but both Jonathan and Jasmine rejected that idea. Splitting up the party, Shiro and Lysandra exited the teleport shrine. Looking around, she decided to get some food first. Looking on her phone for a decent restaurant nearby, she found a noodle bar that had quite a high rating. Let's go to this one, Shiro said as Lysandra followed along. Sitting down in the bar, she pulled out her phone and messaged Helion. Shiro, I'm in Kyoto now, just waiting for you. Helion, holy crap, that's fast. Shiro, yep. I was just one teleport shrine away after all. So where are you right now? Helion, I'm still looking for people to take me to Kyoto. Shiro, in that case, then do you want to teleport to New York? We both have that checkpoint after all. Helion, sure, I don't mind that. I'll see you soon then. Shiro, all right. Putting down her phone, Shiro looked at Lysandra apologetically. Sorry, it seems like we're going to be taking a quick trip back to New York. We'll have to finish our food quickly. Pausing for a moment and looking down at her giant bowl of fried noodles, Lysandra sighed. Give me a second then. I'll finish this quickly. A second. Shiro tilted her head. Just as she said this, a golden aura appeared around Lysandra as she activated her buffs. Narrowing her eyes at the bowl, she picked it up and started to eat at impressive speeds. Her chopsticks became a blur as the huge bowl soon became empty. Setting it down slowly, she grabbed a napkin and dabbed her mouth softly. All right, I'm ready. Lysandra smiled. Asterisk clack. Dropping her chopsticks, Shiro couldn't help but open her mouth slightly in disbelief. Did she just use combat skills to eat noodles faster? I can't let Ian know about this, or else who knows how much damage she could do to someone's pantry. After finishing their food, the two of them made their way back to the teleport shrine and arrived in New York. Looking around, Shiro immediately spotted Helion waiting in the corner and walked over to him. Yo, did you wait long? Shiro asked with a small wave. Not too long. You can call it compensation for making you wait last time. Helion chuckled softly as Shiro shrugged. Well, it couldn't be helped last time. Anyways, I'll hand you the materials now, and I'll be back on my way to Kyoto. How come you're in Kyoto? Helion asked curiously. Class up requirements. I want to find out a bit more on the celestial trials as they're opening in 3 months. Shiro smiled. I see. I was just wondering if there's anything I can do to help you. Helion furrowed his brows. Don't worry about it. If anything, keep leveling up and reach new heights. That way, you can truly help me out in the future. Shiro grinned. Haha, that's quite a bit of pressure for me then. But don't worry, I'll try my best. Helion nodded. Just as she was about to keep on talking, she remembered about her god-slaying sword Akram. She had tried to avoid using it since she didn't trust such a handy tool that just fell on her lap. If she was the god slayer herself, she'd rather do the task herself rather than let some unknown person do it for her. However, she wasn't too sure about how risky it was to tamper with the weapon as of this moment. Is there anything wrong? You look worried, Helion asked with concern. Emin? Oh, nothing. Just thinking about a troublesome weapon. Say, since you're chosen by you-know-what, do you think you can examine this weapon? But if it gets dangerous, don't hesitate in destroying it if needs be. Shiro replied seriously. What weapon could be so bad that it warrants this kind of treatment? Helion furrowed his brows. It's better that we do it in a dungeon. Leaving the teleport shrine, they entered a relatively low dungeon. With Lysandra clearing out the monsters that tried to kill them, Shiro pulled out the god-slaying sword Akram. Despite its current status as being sealed, the moment she pulled out the level 100 sword that matched her level, unrelenting killing intent spread out instantly and tried to target Helion. Whether it was because of his status as the god's chosen or not, Shiro didn't care as she instantly threw it as far away as possible. Asterisk bang. Crashing against the dungeon walls, it embedded itself deeply while some sort of corruption started to spread out from its blade. TCH, aggressive little b asterisk star that sword is. Shiro clicked her tongue while massaging her wrists. Are you alright? Where did you even get a sword like that? Helion widened his eyes, and he quickly pulled out a health potion. I got it from an emergency raid. The sword is apparently called the god-slaying sword, though I can't prove anything. I don't trust the source and was just wondering if the previous owner was trying to pull something shady without me knowing. Shiro replied as she rejected his health potion. After all, her natural healing was quite monstrous. I see. Let me have a check then. Be careful, seeing as how it tried to lash out at you. The fact that you're a god's chosen may be dangerous. Shiro reminded. Don't worry, I have you here, don't I? Helion chuckled and slowly approached the sword. Narrowing his eyes, he started to appraise the sword. Analyzing its core components, his face slowly turned pale. Seeing this, Shiro furrowed her brows and wondered what's wrong. Shiro, I'll be honest with you. I don't know why such a thing even exists, but you should never use this sword. Hell, don't even pull it out if you can, since the more you interact with it, the more chances it gets to acclimate to your body. Helion warned seriously. How come? You see, from what I can see so far, every part of this sword has been crafted with what seems to be soul fragments. The more you use the sword, the more these fragments will weaken your hold over your physical body. After a certain point in time, your body would be extra vulnerable for something or someone to possess it. However, this is just theory from my already pre-existing knowledge combined with what I saw. That's quite troublesome then, isn't it? Shiro frowned since she had expected as much. It was no wonder the fabled god slayer would actually have a random girl take his job. Anyways, how do you even know about the soul fragments? That's pretty high-level knowledge. She asked curiously. I know of it because there are some blacksmithing techniques that require the use of soul fragments. However, these are only used for forging cursed weapons that will fight against its user. An example is the legendary cursed swords created by the blacksmith Muramasa. While this was just a legend, people have tried to recreate it with some success, and part of the forging process is to infuse soul fragments. Helion replied as Shiro nodded her head in understanding. With the introduction of the system, legends soon became reality, so such a situation was not uncommon. I would help you destroy it, but the composition of the blade is rather unique. Should you try to forcefully destroy it, the soul fragments and anything I couldn't discover would go rampant and attack you directly since it's bound to you. Give me some time, I'll focus some research on it, and try to find a way for you to get rid of this sword. I see, thank you. Storing the sword away, she quickly transferred all the materials she collected as Helion rushed back to the teleport shrine so that he could do some research and help out Shiro as soon as he could. Seeing his urgency to help her, she had to admit it was quite a nice feeling. Though if it was anyone else, she would probably be more annoyed than pleased. It would just feel like they're looking down on her, but with Helion, it was genuine concern. Shaking her head, she too teleported to Kyoto since she had her own journey to go on. Seems like it was a trap after all. I knew it. If they're powerful, one shouldn't trust them so easily. Their attachment to life is greater than what one would expect. Shiro thought to herself. Arriving back at Kyoto, she planned out what she would do in the next 2 months. Her main goal was to explore Mount Fuji and talk to Keiko. During that time, as long as it wasn't too big of a detour, she could basically do whatever she wanted with Lysandra. Right then, Mount Fuji is to the northeast of Kyoto. So regardless of what we do, as long as it's on the way, it doesn't matter too much. Lisa, on the way there, if you find anything fun, don't worry about it and tell me. We'll take a detour if needs be. Shiro smiled as she took her mind off the sword situation since there wasn't much she could do other than wait for now. All right. I was just thinking about this thing called dojos. Lysandra replied while showing her a page on the forums. Due to the system and the impact it brought upon the world, dojos that trained people in martial arts and fighting techniques became popular once again all over Japan as parents would want their children to have the best start they could get. It was so that once they eventually awaken their class, they're able to fight off the monsters to a certain degree. From what I can see, apparently you can challenge them for a certain amount of money. Depending on how you do, you can get some rewards and even be offered a premium membership that has access to their martial arts manuals. Shiro raised her eyebrow in curiosity. Maybe we could challenge a few and see how we fare against people of different countries with just our techniques. Back in New York and Muriel, martial arts weren't too common, so for a country this full of dojos, their standard should be pretty high. Lysandra replied since she was always ready to get some training in. I see. All right, we'll do that on our way there then. Who knows, we might even pick up something decent. Shiro grinned. This was the start of their adventure in Japan, and the first thing they were going to do is to raid dojos for their manuals. Walking through the streets of Kyoto, Shiro had her phone out and was currently researching the best dojos near them. So far, she had her eyes on a relatively popular dojo called the Kyoto Fighters Association. In this dojo, they prioritize footwork and disarming their opponents before using their weapons against them. At higher levels, they will teach you a set of skills and train you in them until the system adds it into your arsenal. Say, Lysandra, what do you think of this dojo? Shiro asked with a smile. Looking at the details, Lysandra furrowed her brows for a little before she nodded her head. Sure, this one seems pretty interesting. Lysandra nodded as they made their way to the Kyoto Fighters Association. On the way there, Shiro saw children running around while fighting with each other. However, their fighting was a little different since they're using the stances and combat forms they learned in dojos. Looking at their tiny bodies trying to look mighty was quite cute in Shiro's eyes, but at the same time, it was a little sad too. For children their age to have to prepare for life and death situations. Do you pity them? Izul asked curiously. I wouldn't go as far as pity, but it is quite sad that they have to do this, even though it's for their own good. Shiro replied with a shake of her head. Upon arriving at the Kyoto Fighters Association, Lysandra had an excited look in her eyes as she couldn't wait to fight the people trained by the dojo. The more she trained, the more powerful she would become. Seeing her gaze, Shiro couldn't help but chuckle and pat her head. Don't be too hasty now, we got plenty of time, she said with a grin. Please don't pat my head out of nowhere. You scared me. Lysandra pouted a little since it was very rare for Shiro to pat her head, so she wasn't prepared for it. If she had to describe Shiro, it would be serious parent. Who told my tomboy of a daughter to suddenly be so cute when she sees anything to do with fighting? Shiro chuckled. TCH, if we're talking about being a tomboy, aren't you more manly than me? Plus, you only recently acquired breasts, so out of all of us, you looked most like a man. Lysandra thought to herself, as there was no way in hell that she was going to say that out loud. Don't you see my womanly charm? What part of me is manly? And also, why do I feel like you just thought of something I don't really like? Shiro paused as she tilted her head. Feeling Shiro's suspicious glare on her, Lysandra coughed and quickly entered the dojo through the glass doors. Welcome. Suddenly greeted by overlapping welcomes, Lysandra was surprised at how many attendants had just popped out from seemingly nowhere. While she was frozen in shock, Shiro walked past her and reached the counter. Hello, I would like to do a dojo challenge. Shiro smiled. Understood. Do you understand the procedures, or are you new? The receptionist asked since there were plenty of people every day who challenged but knew nothing of the procedures. It's my first time, so I'm not too sure about what to do. It would be great if you walked me through it. She didn't want to assume anything since they may have omitted some information from the net. It was better to understand firsthand. Understood. Follow me, and I shall explain to you the procedures. Getting up from behind the desk, someone else sat down and took her place while she guided Shiro and Lysandra down the halls. You see, the dojo challenge is a little different here. Since we're quite a big organization with hundreds of manuals, there are bound to be lots of challengers. If we do the challenges all day, every day, it'll stop the main lessons from functioning properly, so we made it a rule that everyone can only challenge once every 3 months at max so that they have time to improve. Thankfully for you, the monthly reset has just begun, so there aren't as many challengers today. A with Tildenyo. Therefore, you may challenge straight away. The challenge is set up in a grade system and will pit you up against instructors that are around your level. This way, we don't put you against someone too strong or too weak, and you may get the best benefit out of this. Not only that, depending on your initial grade, the reward you get at the end will differ. Should you win against a high-level instructor, you'll get a high-level manual. There are 7 grades of instructors, and it's the same as the class grading systems. From the lowest, F, to the highest, S. Of course, this has nothing to do with stats, but rather technique. Relative to your current class and stats, the challenges will scale up to you so that it remains fair and true. During the actual tests, you'll be given a rundown of what you need to do, but other than that, it will not tell you of your grade. The receptionist explained as Shiro digested all of the information. I see. Just curious, but do you know of the rewards for people that get an S class? Shiro asked. It wasn't as if she was overconfident, but she figured that S class may be in her reach. With her level of fighting experience, body/mana control and reflexes enhanced by nanobots, there was a slim chance for her to actually lose. Haha, that's a question that all the people ask on their first time here. You see, no one actually knows what is in the S-class reward. Only the director and the highest level instructor knows, no one else. They are also the people that you need to face should you reach the S-class, and I'll warn you, they're way too gifted in the art of fighting. Rumors say that they can even get possessed by their ancestors and gain a huge amount of fighting experience, as well as new fighting styles to throw off their opponent. The receptionist replied with a whisper. Continuing down the hall, they soon arrived at a giant set of metal doors. Pulling out her ID, she scanned it on the side. Asterisk, KRRRR. Opening with a loud creak, the receptionist turned back to the duo. This is the testing chamber. Once entered, it will start at the lowest level and slowly increase in difficulty. Can one of you step in? Mom, I'll go first. Lysandra offered as Shiro nodded her head. Good luck. Watching Lysandra walk inside, Shiro gave her one last gesture of encouragement as the gates closed itself. So Mom, huh? Didn't expect it since you look so young. Not to be offensive, but you don't have that mature mother feeling, haha. The receptionist joked. Well, I've never been in a relationship, I guess. Lisa was in a slightly awkward situation and she just sort of became my daughter over time. Shiro replied with a shrug. Back then, if she didn't form a contract, her body would have been taken over by the light goddess. However, her actions seemed to have erased Lysandra from everyone's memories, which meant that depending on what happens in the dungeon, the system will correct the real world to accommodate that change. This was quite scary since despite the light goddess being a god and could interfere with the system, she still couldn't stop it from taking Lysandra away from her. So even if I become a god, I'll be under the system's jurisdiction unless I go beyond its domain of control. Shiro mused to herself. That was a random-ass thought. Where did that come from? Nimue asked since Shiro just started to talk about gods and systems all of a sudden. Oh, don't mind it. I'm just sidetracking. Returning her focus back to the real world, the assistant had led her to a similar chamber as the one that Lysandra had entered. Much like your daughter, you'll also enter this chamber and the test will start. The receptionist smiled. Amen, thank you. Shiro nodded and entered the chamber. Glancing back, she watched as the gate closed. Hearing the robotic voice, Shiro frowned slightly as she realized that her physique was scanned. TCH, troublesome. I can't hide this with my disguise. Shiro furrowed her brows. However, if the worst were to come, she could just flee so it wasn't too much of a problem. Since there's a chance that I have to flee after this, I might as well go all out and try to get the most out of this dojo in one go. Shiro grinned and cracked her knuckles. Crouching down slightly, she narrowed her eyes and waited for whatever it was that was going to attack her. Asterisk bang. Suddenly, tins of black orbs appeared in her vision as she quickly twisted her body. Roundhouse kicking the first orb, she sent it flying towards two others that knocked them off course and stopped them from hitting her. But despite this, she was still in danger of being hit. Raising up her hand, she took a deep breath and punched towards the closest orb. With her extended hand, she then swept it to the right and hit another orb with the back of her hand. Flowing through her movements with ease, she created an area of influence around her of which the orb could not approach whatsoever. Using her Azura sword path as a base, she determined the weakest orb and attacked with ferocity. As the speed of the orbs increased, so did her movements. Of course, she could use her magic, but that would be no fun. Meanwhile, a similar situation could be seen in Lysandra's room since she took Shiro's teachings to heart. Analyzing the situation calmly, she was somewhat able to replicate Shiro's feats by targeting the closest orbs and denying them entry. While her area of influence was not as big as Shiro's, it was enough to help her fend the orbs off. ####. Continuing to hit the orbs away, Shiro noticed their subtle change in direction when being fired. It was as if their center of gravity was changed at the last moment, forcing them to deviate from their paths. With a change like this, it would be unproductive to go for jabs instead. One should use sweeps. It was so that you can redirect that momentum to knock the orbs aside. Relaxing her arms a little, she lashed them out as if they were whips and sent 3 orbs flying at once. There were a few that tried to hit her from behind, but Shiro was able to determine their location through her incredible hearing. Twisting her body, she kicked them into the ground and crushed it under her boot. Oops, I don't think I'm allowed to do that, Shiro muttered with a smile. With the current test, she was having quite a bit of fun since the ever-changing patterns and speeds forced her to use her mind and think about what she should do. Compared to a human opponent, since she couldn't kill the testing apparatus, this was a much better experience. It was unknown how long has passed, but the orbs had been through several variations of movements already. From curves, zigzags, drill motions to a sudden stop, 90-degree turns, and even change in shape to become more streamlined. With every passing second, the orbs will become faster. Whenever she tried to use mana to reinforce her body, the orbs will get a sudden boost in speed. Knowing this, she stopped reinforcing her body since there may be times where this wasn't an option. Sweat dripped off her face as she no longer had the carefree look. Her face was deadly serious since each orb was now traveling at a speed where a single mistake would be difficult to correct. Asterisk clack. Suddenly, without any warning, the lights turned off as her pupils shrank in shock. Quickly pushing her other senses to the limit, she dodged the orbs at the last second, but a few of them managed to scrape the hem of her dress. TCH. Clicking her tongue, Shiro wondered if she should use her skill analysis. Let's use it. If the orbs change due to me using this skill, I practice more with it. She mused to herself and activated her skill. Unfortunately, a pulse of mana disrupted her cast as she realized that there was a skill cancellation formation around this room. Well, damn. Shaking her head, she continued to push her hearing and touch to the next level in order to survive against this wave of attacks. ####. Asterisk yawn. Stretching his body back on his chair, the director of the Kyoto Fighters Association looked through the window and at the main hall filled with students training in different martial arts. Sighing slightly, he had a bored expression on his face. Why must you sigh so often, master? A man smiled wearily. Hideo, do you know why I became the director to begin with? MN, you wanted to learn more about the strongest martial arts and challenge people to prove your might. Hideo replied instantly. Indeed. But after learning the so-called strongest martial art, I never got a good challenge. I try to go closer to the front lines to find people, but they are few and far between. Plus, my obligations as the director forces me to stay here. The director shook his head. Do we not have spars often though, master? Hideo raised his eyebrows. We do, but having fought with each other so much, we pretty much understand each other's movements and habits. There's no new mystery, no change or excitement that comes with it anymore. You feel that too, don't you? He asked. Staying silent, Hideo agreed to his statement. At first, it was always a challenge to land a hit on his master, but once the first hit appeared, the second soon followed. Then the third, the fourth, and so on. After a certain point, they were trading blow for blow since they understood each other. If they had a few more people to spar with, things would not get so boring. Of course, they tried to train up someone that could fit the requirements, but they simply couldn't reach their standard. And despite them putting the best manuals they have for public acquisition, as long as they managed to get the highest grade and beat them, no one had even come close to reaching S rank, never mind facing them in combat. Hell, even those that reached a rank barely got in. Master, I'm sure that if you gave up this role to someone else, you can have the freedom to look for a suitable opponent. Hideo persuaded as the director shook his head. No can do. This dojo is the blood, sweat, and tears of my family. I cannot simply leave it to someone else's hands. Ku. This wouldn't be a problem if you could actually get a wife without needing to face them in combat. Hideo rolled his eyes. Oi, I'm not old to the point where I'm deaf, you know. The director deadpanned. Chuckling softly, Hideo got a chair and started to help the director with some work. However, they soon hear a notification that hadn't been heard in such a long time. Widening their eyes, they stood up in shock. Could it be? Could we finally have someone we can fight? The director muttered in excitement. But before they could even leave the room, they received a second notification. Two. There's actually two. The director smiled widely while shaking Hideo's shoulder. Amen. Let's go spectate their test. Hideo suggested as they quickly rushed over to the testing chambers. With two people that had reached Twilight Zone, it meant that they entered the middle to high section of a rank. If they kept this up, S rank will be within their grasp. Upon arriving at the scene, they could see a small crowd of instructors gathering around both rooms. The director's here. Someone shouted out as they parted and bowed in respect. Nodding his head, he looked at the screen for tester Lisa since she was the closest. She has been hit a total of 15 times so far, with 10 of them received the moment she entered the Twilight Zone. If this keeps up, she should be around the middle of a grade. He muttered with a shake of his head. The test is set up so that you're allowed a certain amount of hits per level, and for her to be hit only 5 times before reaching Twilight Zone was quite impressive. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough to reach the S rank. His initial excitement faded since there was a good chance that they are only a ranks and nothing more. Walking up to the next chamber, he set his expectations low so that he wouldn't get too disappointed. Widening his eyes, he looked at the stats once again just to make sure that he wasn't hallucinating. Current hit count, 0. He muttered in shock. Despite the sudden transition into the Twilight Zone, she wasn't hit at all. His hands quivered slightly, since it was very likely that this girl could reach S rank.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.